Hi, if you're a teacher or an instructional designer using this website template for creativity and visual design for your own purposes or to add to it, I just want to show you a little bit about what goes on under the hood for creating this. So this is the site. As you can see, it's a responsive site that resizes depending on the screen size over here. So this site was created in an HTML editing program. I use Dreamweaver. The main framework was actually using Bootstrap, which is a great responsive framework which is free to use. So this is a site for Bootstrap that you can download the files, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files to be able to get a website that is responsive. The other thing that was used was this navbar template. Basically, this is an example. I based my navigation, this navigation that you see up here, on this one, basically changing the fonts through CSS and some of the sizing and other items visually. And then there was also the sticky footer that I use, this one where the footer is supposed to stick to the bottom. As you can see, as you resize the window, it sticks. Doesn't work in every single instance. As you can see, it's not so sticky. It's at the bottom here. I think it's because I might have some conflicting styles from one style sheet to the next, but it's still in there. So if we're just to go back to the site, I just wanted to show you that, so these were basically, as you can see, they're PHP pages. And the only reason why I'm using PHP is because I had certain items that repeat on each page, which I did not want to have to edit from page to page to page. Say, for example, like the navigation bar, which might change. And so instead of having to open up like 10 different HTML files and then change, the menu item for, say, any one of the menu items to a different link, instead of having to do that, as many times as I have web pages, I use PHP includes, which are, down here. PHP includes that basically allow me to isolate certain parts that repeat, like the navigation or the header, or even I think the footer, the sticky footer I put as a PHP includes over here, that will basically repeat and isolate each of these pieces out in their own file. So as you can see, the navigation is found in its own PHP file, for which I can just modify in one spot, and it will be read into any page that has that PHP include across the board. I'm in no way an expert programmer in PHP. Have very basic knowledge of PHP, but just knowing this one little item regarding PHP for PHP includes helps a lot for repetitive things like this. Now, the one thing that's important if you are using PHP includes, you won't just be able to, preview in your browser like regular HTML. You would actually need to be running some sort of testing server. So I have MAMP installed on my computer, and it's running the Apache server and the MySQL server. They kind of like simulate servers as if they were online, which allows the same type of functionality as if you were using a live server with Apache or MySQL to handle PHP. So as you can see here, this is my home page, the index page. Over here you can see all the different files that are included that make this page work. So there's the Bootstrap CSS. I have a custom style sheet as well, for which I modified certain styles, such as the fonts. I was able to do that. I used a Google font and just changed those over here. Then of course there's the link to jQuery, any other scripts, and any other PHP that's being loaded in. So in this one page I have the navigation bar being loaded in, the header bar, the footer, etc. So one thing to note that since we are using PHP, the reason why this is not called index.html is because since there is a PHP includes in there, we must change the extension to .php. That's a very simplified explanation. So then the next thing you'll see is that we had created, remember, Adobe Edge Animate videos in Animate. So from there we were able to export them as HTML files. And so in order to get them into our pages, say for example on the pen tool, we basically used, there's two ways to do it. There's a couple ways to do it. You can basically use a simple iframe to get load in basically another HTML page into this page using an iframe. So therefore the HTML page that was published from Animate will then get loaded into this page so that it has the navigation and all the other parts of the web page on this page as well. As you can see here, there's so this is what Edge produced, what it published, just basically the animation itself with no other headers or footers or anything like that. And so the challenge is to get this into our page. So in order to do so, basically the iframe is loading in that HTML page, and when you look at it in the browser, it will basically load in that HTML page with the animation into this web page, so pentool.php. So a lightbox effect was included on one of our web pages, the one regarding bitmap versus vector graphics overview. As you can see, the lightbox effect is one in which you have a thumbnail image, and then when you click on it, basically it will load up this lightbox effect with grayed out background and a larger image. So in order to create this effect, we used code taken from this site here, Lightbox. It's a really great site, used it in the past, that allows for this type of thing, this loading of a graphic, going to the next one, little title description below, and this is really easy to use. It's now located on GitHub, where you can just download the code, and it basically gives you a little instruction on how to use it and how to incorporate it on your site. So basically, the basics of it is you need to basically copy over any of their CSS files, put them in the appropriate folders, any of their JavaScript files that are being used. There is, and then link to them. So in the head of your document, you'll have to have links to their files located in the right places. So if it's in a CSS folder, put in the same place or change your links over here. And then down here for any example of an actual picture, basically you need two images. Oops, it skips around a little bit. So you need basically a thumbnail image, a smaller picture, and then a larger picture, which is going to link to the bigger picture. So you have a thumbnail, and then you basically have the larger picture, which is this one over here. So before you do so, you need to actually like resize your own photo. So I have here in Photoshop an example of, say I created, you can make your thumbnail any size, you just, make them consistent so that they look good. So my thumbnail image over here, which is basically a cropped out section of the larger picture. So my larger picture is 800 pixels by 800. This is a smaller one. You would then put them into your images folder at the right location. So this one's located in IMG folder. I just kept the same structure as the example. And so for each one I have a thumbnail, and I also have a larger picture, and they're numbered in sequence so that they can kind of scroll through each one. And so with this, you end up getting this great lightbox effect going on. I'm testing on my local host, and as you can see on my local host, it works just fine. It can go to the next picture and the next picture, and it gives you a little title of what the image is, and it changes with each picture. And then of course there's a little close button to get back, or you can just click off the picture anywhere. The only thing is it doesn't quite work the same on the actual site, so I'm trying to troubleshoot that to figure out what's going on with that. But great tool to use, and the code is free, open source. So all this basically comes together locally with a bunch of different files, which are then, currently we're using a testing server, but if we switch over to our remote server, this will take us to the site where the actual files are located online, and we can basically just transfer our entire site over, or as we make modifications, transfer over individual files. So here we are online, connected to the Interactive Templates final folder. And as you can see, all of the files have been transferred. It could use a little bit better organization. However, lots of stuff are being tested. And as things get modified or changed, you can just basically take the items, either everything transferred over again, or just individual items that you might be modifying, such as if you modify something on the navigation bar, you know, you change a link, you add a link, you can just bring this over to here and it updates. So finally, to create the quiz that I used online, I use this site called Quizizz.com that allows you to create quizzes and to be able to embed them directly in your website, or else get a link to them. So as you can see, I use all the free options. There are different prices depending on what you want to do, but I was just experimenting with it. So the basic one has some great things: unlimited quizzes, unlimited responses, unlimited shares, which is the basics of what I wanted. And then some fun analytics as well. So here you can always sign up. The site has a full explanation of how to use it and suggestions for with video tutorials of how to use it, and then you can embed it into your site. So where you see this quiz is right here on this section here. If you go to Graphic Design Lessons quiz, this is the quiz that is embedded with an iframe code directly into the site made by me. It sometimes takes a little while to load. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a way to get some sort of preloader to indicate that something's showing up soon, but it does take a little bit of time to load the first time. And then you can start the quiz and go through the quiz, make up your own questions, and basically it gives you a rating at the end. The form that I used was with a Google form. It allows me to create questions and then distribute these questions to others to then fill out. So this is my way of gathering data from users. So then down here you will see the survey after they've completed a section of the lesson, and I have the survey basically embedded onto the web page also, where they can go through, take the survey, and then submit the response, and the response comes back to me in a form of a spreadsheet, which can then also be visualized. So the survey, once taken, once the person has completed it, actually comes back to me in the form of a spreadsheet where I can see all the results. And then these results can also be visualized if you show your summary of responses. So here it gives you a visualization of the responses that you got, frequencies and ratings, and any type of open-ended feedback to give you a summary of it down here. And so on the site for resources for instructors, you can see basically there is a sitemap, the initial PowerPoint template that was done the very first exercise to try out PowerPoint. There's a template for how to use some of the tools as we have here in terms of some of these tools. How do we use the crop tool? How do we use the pen tool? There should be a lot more tools listed here. This was just the basic populating, instantiating a couple of instances just to show how it can work, but then of course we can add other examples, many more with many other video tutorials. And then finally, we have here the EdgeAnimate authoring files, which can be downloaded if you guys want to take a look through them and actually download them to see under the hood. They're all in here. Other things you can see are the troubleshooting guide I wrote up, and the survey results and summary. Just had a very small survey sample with basically the results, the report, and the actual survey that was administered. So this is it in a nutshell. I didn't want to use a content management system or a fully made template, well, mainly because I was having trouble with audio and video doubling up and playing all over the place at different times with some of the templates. So I decided to make something very simple, kind of from scratch, using the Bootstrap framework. And I think it was very helpful with my own learning and understanding of HTML5, CSS, jQuery and JavaScript, and a lot of different elements that help bring this site together. Thank you for watching.